good portion of the Magic the Gathering community is not a fan of Universes Beyond. That's not new. But I think we can realize the average Magic player is probably a Commander player, and those folks are generally happy with most things. They like new toys to play with in their 99. But not only is there crossover in these opinions and these communities, but there also is a divide amongst current Magic sets, because the Universes Beyond sets are something different. In-universe Magic sets are meant to draw from Magic lore of old, be fantastical, high fantasy, not sci-fi with space lasers, but maybe something with magical wands and wizards. A lot of people were okay with Lord of the Rings, but not many so with Aetherdrift, and I've had a lot of anecdotal messaging from other creators talking about how their Aetherdrift content just isn't doing too well. Magic players just aren't vibing with like a Death Ray style set, one with many references and Akira slides, and this video from the Red Bobcat wants to address that, why everyone hates Aetherdrift. And I wanted to go over this video today with you and maybe talk about the one central issue. I've actually done a video on why I believe everyone is not a fan of Magic right now, and I'm hoping the Red Bobcat touches on this. I do trust his opinions. I've watched some of his videos, maybe not all of them, so I'm hoping he can drive this one home. The root of Aetherdrift's many issues. Leave a like on the video here, and as always with these videos, as I do these reacts, I recommend you go watch the video, leave a like on the video, and let it just, again, you're watching with me, let it run in the background, let these videos hit the algorithm the way they're meant to. All right, let's play it.
Hey, yo, I want to talk about anything else. I don't like this set, and I'm not the only one. In fact, as I said in the thumbnail, everyone hates Aetherdrift. But what specifically do I mean by that? Because I'm not talking about hating it in general, or everyone hating every...
Okay, let me make my stance clear as we go into this video. Let me make my stance clear. So, I believe that many Magic the Gathering players are confused. They don't realize that they don't hate the set. They hate the fact that the lore and the story of Magic the Gathering isn't being driven home anymore. That's what you really care about, right? This is why we need to open the schools and bring back like literature studies and just critical thinking. Why you learned Y equals MX plus B, and all those losers selling you like investing classes and saying you don't need to go to school to learn this. Part of why you're learning all these abstract ideas is critical thinking. And a lot of education systems right now are trying to remove that from you. They're trying to stop you from being able to think about what you are consuming. People are reading books less, and they're not able to understand the reason they are not connecting with these IPs and with these stories and these characters are because there is no story to tell. Magic isn't like what it used to be in terms of its story, the grand epics of Urza and Mishra and the consequences, the people falling, the planes dying, millions and billions of beings just falling off the folly of two brothers, like stories like that, the Weatherlight saga and a brave venturing party going to stop a mass evil, like things like that don't exist. We have Akira slides and like planeswalkers that can go through any plane and no consequences. My favorite anecdote that I keep saying in every other video is that we got invaded by Phyrexia, lost to Phyrexia, but then beat Phyrexia all in one set. That's lazy. That's crap. That's terrible. All right. As an ex-Magic the Gathering ambassador, as someone who loves this game, as someone that engages with this game and honestly has a lot of positive things to say about it, the story sucks. It's awful. It's so poorly implemented. The cards don't make any sense. And honestly, the artists and the writers are forced in these terrible situations because they're not being paid enough. Let's be honest here, Bobcat, I'm really hoping you drive this one home, but it's Hasbro's fault. It's Hasbro's fault. Hasbro has been a sinking company for so many years, and Wizards of the Coast is the only company, like to my knowledge, maybe other companies maybe are making some profit, but Wizards of the Coast is the only one that I'm aware of that is making a significant profit year after year, and they are being pressured to do so by Hasbro, paying their artists less, paying their writers less, hiring less skilled people to write these stories, make them actually be connected over a series of sets, and have it make sense. Bobcat, I hope that's what you're kind of pointing at, because that is my theory here. You don't feel connected to these sets. It's not DEI. It's not that, oh, Teferi's black and Aragorn's black. Get out of here with that nonsense, okay? That's perfectly fine. Representation is important. The problem is you don't care because the story isn't written well. The story is not written well, okay? Let's see what Bobcat has to say.
Aspect of the game. For me, for instance, it's nice to see Armankit again. I'm a big fan of that.
Facts.
But even with that inclusion, I still hate this set and have put off talking about it for as long as possible.
this set specifically, I will say, like, the inclusion of like 3 different planes feels really random in the sense that, like, I believe the third set is called like Muruganda. That's like a plane that we haven't seen before. So it feels like flavorfully, it feels like wild and crazy big things. Like, is that just Ixalan or like Zendikar? Like what's the difference? What is Muruganda in comparison to other sets? Like, what is the theme that, what, like, I feel like people are disconnected with that. Why are they racing? What's the significance of the Aether Spark? Like, it's like a pretty mid, honestly, when you break it down, it's a pretty mid artifact. The only cool part about it to me is that it's an equipment that you can tutor up with Stoneforge Mystic. That, like, it's mid otherwise. Like, I don't know what powerful thing it's doing. There's no reason to connect it in the story. Right now, the Omen paths are open so everyone can travel between every plane, but we haven't told people why that's a problem, because we had someone like Nicol Bolas that could planeswalk, that could go to any plane and wreak havoc. Okay, now you have every plane open to everybody, so you could have multiple big bads. That hasn't been kind of established. And now for some reason, Loot, aka Baby Yoda of Magic, has the whole mapping of the Omen paths in his brain. Why isn't that kind of fully realized in cards? Loot is just this thing that they want us to care about over Fibblethip. I care more about Fibblethip. Fibblethip is cool because he ain't got no vowels in his name. That's friggin' metal. That's so cool. But we somehow care about Loot, or we're forced to care about Loot in a way that doesn't make any sense to the story. What about his abilities draws to the idea that the Omen paths are what's in his mind, an endless vast matrix? And like when in the story, Jace points out the fact that when he looks at like other people's minds, it's not this like really, you know, fragile crystalline structure. It's like this vast metal fortress of like unending whatever, right? Like Loot's brain he's just built different. We don't get that brought across to us in the story. Why should we care about these planes, like these planeswalkers going through multiple planes? Like, are the Omen paths ultimately going to be closed because the next big bad is going to try and destroy everything? Like, and why do they want to destroy everything? If they destroy everything, aren't they destroying themselves? Like, what is the ultimate goal? Like, at least with Nicol Bolas, it was believable because he wanted everyone under his servitude. There was a battle between him and his brother Dragon. Like there are actually like kind of soft like semblances of story when it came to Nicol Bolas. There was no story with Phyrexia. There's no story now. Where are we going? What is the buildup? It's like we're building like the current phase of Marvel right now. There's no freaking direction.
This is the first time ever since I've been playing that Magic has put out a full standard legal expansion that I don't even want to think about. And to you, yeah, specifically you, who's already down in the comments, just shut up then. Why complain? If you don't like it, don't buy it. Well, buddy, first, do I have a video for you? Link in the description. And second, that is what I'm doing. I'm not going to buy it. I'm not going to play it. I'm not interested. The only way I'm going to open any packs is if they get sent to me for free, but even then that'll be for the channel, for your enjoyment. It will not be for mine, because I'm going to take Watsy's advice. They say, not every product is for you. And you don't have to engage with every set. Okay.
My man got the receipts.
And is that what you want, commenter?
I will also say that, like, okay, I have made an active effort to make more positive content on this channel this year. A lot of people were complaining about the fact that, oh, all Shaft does is complain now. He's making a lot more videos. All he's done is yapping on negative things. Y'all ain't watching the positive videos. Go to my channel, watch the viewership. A lot of people can say, you know, this is just like a regular YouTube trend. You know, that's kind of what I'm chalking up to it now, that, you know, like the viewership these days, especially after the election and everything, like general trends of the internet go down. But I can't help but feel I make more positive content. Y'all ain't watching, but every time I complain about, I make a video called The Problem with the Bracket System, y'all be watching, y'all be eating that up. Y'all be eating that up. But when I make a positive video about like, oh, like the best of this, the best of that, y'all ain't trying to watch that because it's not interesting to you. But a general complaint is interesting to you. Come on, y'all. Come on, y'all. Be honest with me. All right. Like it's so bad faith. All right. Come on. We need to be better. We need to be better as viewers.
To play a lonely game where everyone who's ever criticized anything has been pushed out and told to quit. You want to be the only one left, winning by default because no one else cares to play. The king of nothing. Well, congrats, because I'm not buying any, so I guess you're one step closer to your lonely goal. Okay. But to the rest of you, I know a couple of weeks ago I made a noise about how negativity gets views. That's not what I'm doing here. This tone isn't for clicks. Yo,
this is literally what I'm talking about. Look at this. My frustrating disappointment for y'all. It's double the views almost. It's almost double the views. Y'all aren't serious. Y'all aren't serious. And let me tell you, I love my dedicated viewers. Some of you, I really do love, because I see you commenting regularly. I see you in my videos engaging. I appreciate that. I love when y'all come back and comment. I try and take my time to go through some of my videos as well. Unfortunately, my comments do get bogged down with all the shorts that I post, but you know, I appreciate y'all commenting. Problem is, it's hard to reach a new audience when all you're being is positive, because people don't want to hear about that. People got real problems with Magic right now, and it's hard because I want to complain. There are things that I have problems with, but if I keep complaining, Wizards of the Coast will not work with me. If I don't point out the real issues, then my viewers won't work with me. What is my middle ground? I can't just keep making Commander content all the time. I can't just be doing all this. Like people like the Red Bobcat, yo, I'm feeling you right now. I'm a constructed content creator and a yapper that makes Commander content every so often. How do I yap and get to the masses when y'all don't want to see it? When y'all don't want to see positivity in this game?
These are, as always, my real feelings. And I promise I haven't forgotten my New Year's resolution either. I'm just making an exception for Aetherdrift because it doesn't deserve the positivity. And you may be thinking, well, Red, you can't be right because I don't hate Aetherdrift. But I'm not talking about you individually. I'm talking about everyone, the general consensus. Because while you may not hate the set yourself, at least consciously, I bet you know someone who does. And I'd even go so far as to say that you're not fully thrilled with the set in its entirety either. I'm sure you're aware that overall the consensus on the set leans towards hate. And again, just to clarify here, I'm not talking about hating every aspect of the game, but one specific thing. One issue I can point to and say this is the reason Aetherdrift is bad, and whether they know it or not, this is the reason everyone hates it.
No, I can point to one thing. It's the story. It's the story. There's individual set problems. Like I really don't like start your engines. I think it's like the party mechanic that I recently went over where like it's so fixed that it's bad. Like the fact that in the party mechanic, one character can only count for one member of the party at a time, which thematically makes sense, but in implementation is so bad. Like they should have just made it so like a changeling can count as like all of them. And then the mechanic would have been so much better. And then it would have been really great for like older commander sets. Like you didn't have to put changelings in there now, but it also kind of would have thematically made sense for like a D&D setting as well. Like have it count as like any type of thing. And then when it comes to start your engines, the fact that it can only trigger once a turn on your turn, come on. We need, look, that's not what's going to save standard. Randomly fixed mechanics is not what's going to get people excited for standard. People do not want to play standard because there ain't no power in standard. Okay, like look at what just happened in the last Pro Tour. It was like top 8 was like all domain mirrors. Okay, and like I get it, there's skill testing to it. I don't know the nuance of it because I don't play standard. I'm not going to comment on it too much. But when you got games like that, which is, you know, like you got these top pros playing them, you got some powerful cards in there. I will say you have some powerful cards in standard, but you can't be doing that with set mechanics that are so poorly implemented, so fixed. Come on, like it's not consistent. It's not consistent. We're printing the Modern Horizons 2 elementals and ruining the modern format. And you got like random pros like Andrea Mengucci saying Modern Horizons 2 was good. Stop. That's not a real opinion. That's a terrible opinion. He actually likes the Modern Horizons 2 elementals. That's a bad opinion. That's not good. When the answers are threats themselves, we're doing that with older formats, but in standard, only once a turn though. Be careful. Only once a turn though. Can't let that happen. Oh, wait, on your turn though, because, whoa, hold on. What if you did that on your opponent's turn? That's too much. Let your opponents do what they want. We want this to be Pokemon. We want this to be Lorcana. Forget the freaking stack system. When it comes to older formats, learn about the stack and the 7 layers of hell that we talk about. Friggin', you know, Blood Moon over Flood Moon over Urza. Like, learn about the layer system there. When it comes to standard, hoopla, we can't print counterspell into it. Lord knows Mana Leak is too powerful. Come on now. Be consistent.
This is what needs to be fixed. And I'll even go so far as to say I've got an idea on how they can fix it, even though I know they won't. Apparently they like it like this, because they keep doing it. Before we get to the big one though, let's take a look at some other reasons I've heard people have to hate this set. And I'm going to start with the gameplay, because it's the one argument that people bring up when they try to defend bad sets like this. Sure. Even though Magic isn't one game. If you're going to say, well, all that really matters is it's fun to play, I'm going to say, what is? Commander, the most popular format, because outside of flavor, the decks this time around seem unrelated to the rest of the set. Do they even count as being part of it if they're basically a separate product? Which I am in favor of, but means I guess I'm not really talking about either of those decks here. Or do you mean the draft environment, where if you're unfamiliar, play booster boxes have 36 boosters like draft booster displays did, as 2 boxes are exactly enough of 3 8.
Okay, I will say specifically when it comes to the commander set, I do like the change that it's only 2 commander sets. We don't need to force 4 in there. And Gavin's like, if we don't want to, we don't have to. Is this a change you're looking for? I like that. I like that it's only 2. We don't need to force all these ideas in there. They do feel a little unrelated, which I kind of like as well, because they could just be their own product. Like, they don't need to be mixed in. You don't need to pay attention to them. I like that divide. Okay, so it feels kind of weird, Bobcat, that you're talking about synergies and being divided, but the messaging is kind of weird. Hashaton's like a really powerful, really cool commander. A lot of people already trying him out in CDH. We got a game nights with them where Rachel was like popping off with Hashaton. Like, everyone already knows about the what's that one black enchantment? Oh my god, it's like the popper enchantment that everyone wants to work, but we just don't have like a second copy of it. Anyway, the one where you like discard a card, return a card from your graveyard. Someone in my comments will have it up. But there's a lot of powerful cards in those sets. I personally do want to build the Saheeli deck. I think it's really cool, like the 2 angles you get with it. But I want to see what Bobcat has to say about play boosters,
which was said in this article by head designer Mark Rosewater, link in the description. Well, what happened to that? Because Aetherdrift only has 30 play boosters per box. I thought that wasn't enough for draft. That's why you just said you increased it. So now 3 8-player drafts need 3 boxes, or if you prefer, a single draft with a single box will have leftover packs. The numbers don't line up. So is this just a way of making people buy more packs than they need?
My man got receipts.
Because that is 6 more boosters than set boosters displays have right now. I thought the whole reason we did away with set boosters in favour of play boosters was because they were for draft, to be played with. So what's happened here? Or are you just lowering the number of packs to make your expensive boxes seem cheaper in comparison, and if that has a negative effect on the people that draft, oh well, guess they'll just have to deal with it.
Gotta love late stage capitalism.
What about non-draft Aetherdrift Limited? Well, from what I'm hearing, due to all the vehicles in the set, it's luck of the draw when opening packs as to whether your deck will even be able to function, because your vehicles can't crew your other vehicles unless you have enough creatures to crew those initial vehicles to begin with. And if you don't open enough creatures, oh well, guess you're in for a bad time. What about Standard, which is this set's gateway into every other format? So really, I suppose I'm asking, what effect will Aetherdrift have on Magic as a whole? Well, I know there are some maniacs out there that will defend power creep and say it's not a big deal. They're objectively wrong when they say that, but I don't have time to prove it today. I
will say against this, like, okay, and you'll probably go into this, maybe he'll prove my point wrong. I think there is a need for progress to happen. Like, I don't know, like power creep, I think like a lot of times negativity gets pointed out. I've already been pretty negative in this video, but I will say that I think power creep is important because it does, in a way, in a bad way, resemble progress, because you do need forward design. Unfortunately, when it comes to Magic design, we've already had like really powerful cards. Like, we've set standards, which is why we've had, the Power 9, and we're not going to reprint Lotus Petal into standard, but we already have it as a common in Pauper. Like, there's already like bars that we're never going to reach, but there is a reason to like power creep divination in a way, right? Like, there needs to be progress, which is what we have with oh my god, I literally have like the card behind me. Where is it? Hold on. Where is it? The card is, it's not Long River's Pole. Stock Up. There you go. This is the card I'm thinking of. So Stock Up, literally, I bought 4 of these because I'm like, yo, I'm gonna jam them into a bunch of commander decks. But Stock Up is like, divination is blue and 2. You draw 2 cards at sorcery speed. Stock Up is blue and 2 at sorcery speed. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck, pick 2, put them in your hand, rest at the bottom. Objectively better than divination. Objectively better than divination. You cannot convince me that's not. Don't give me some garbage about, I lost the other 3 cards. I don't have it. No. That's not a real argument. Objectively better. So it's power creep in that sense. A lot of people, especially in vintage and, decks like Paradoxical Outcome, talking about, this is better than, the friggin' what's that? The instant speed blue and 6. I'm forgetting, Dig Through Time. Better than Dig Through Time or something. Like, power creep is important for progress because you need to see design improve over time and get people excited. You can't just keep bringing back to old times. Like, progress gives old players something to do as well. Not everyone wants to play divination and standard over and over again. We want to see new things. And also gets new players excited because we get to see evolution happen, really powerful effects, and they get introduced to these powerful effects now in older formats. It's kind of helps, in my sense, in my feeling, gateway into other formats as well, especially like MDFCs. Like, these are spells that are lands on the backside. Why would that be important? Well, then you go into older formats. You look at cards like Balustrade Spy. You look at cards like Goblin Charbelcher, and you're like, wow, this is really cool. It's circumventing so much of what Magic is. Like, what other things can we do? So I think it helps provide
why power creep is bad, actually, to my list of videos to make. But for now, you're just going to have to trust me that it is. It really obviously is. But does Aetherdrift even have power
big
creep?
asterisks.
Well, I feel the answer to that question is best summed up by the Aetherdrift card comparison page on the Magic Wiki, link in the description. And as you can see, it breaks cards down into strictly better, strictly worse, and functional reprints.
That's cool.
Let's start at the bottom.
Okay.
There are 2 functional reprints, meaning they have the same mana cost and rules as previously existing cards.
Sure.
Porthole Mole and Spectral Interference are both functional reprints of the previous cards, Eccentric Farmer and Scatter Ray. Obviously, a card's real power is often how it interacts or combos with other cards, but a general rule of thumb when eyeballing a set is functional reprints mean similar playstyles, which will most likely mean a similar power level. What about the strictly worst cards? These cards are also functional reprints, except maybe they cost more mana, have additional requirements to play, don't generate as much value, or have some sort of additional downside that wasn't there on the previous version. Pedal to the Metal, for instance, is strictly worse than Lunar Frenzy because Lunar Frenzy also gives the target creature trample, even though it costs the same amount of mana to cast. So by comparison...
someone keen-eyed will say, technically this is a common, you will get more copies of this in draft, and it's now pauper legal. Come on, I had to point it out.
Pedal to the Metal is strictly worse. And that's it. That's the only card in this category. So in terms of power, Aetherdrift as a set is only slightly weaker than previous sets. Shall we look at the more powerful, strictly better cards? And
it's a bigger list?
Oh, hang on, that doesn't all fit on the screen. There's too many strictly better cards. The list goes on and there's more beneath that. Can we zoom out a bit, please?
Okay. I feel like this might be a little disingenuous. Again, like, yes, there are cards that are strictly better. Like, you can't just always have sideways, like... I see the downside of my argument. I understand the flaws of my argument, but...
And again. And again. And again.
Okay.
Keep going. Keep going.
On the screen.
No, there's still more. Nearly there. Done. There we go. Okay. I would break them down, but there's so many strictly better cards that I'd be here all day. I've heard people say they don't see the power creep in the recent sets. This is the power creep. Look how many older cards have just been surpassed.
Yo, literally right there. Stock Up is strictly better than Uncovered Clues and Divination. Hey, the Magic Asper said it. Don't fight with me. Don't fight with me.
It's just strictly better in terms of power level than the sets that came before it. And if you don't see the issue with that, ask Nadu. He'll tell you from the ban list that chasing power creep never ends well.
This was okay. So I for some of you, you may know that I am a project manager in real life. I'm a paper pusher. Look, a lot of people argue my position doesn't exist. My position exists because y'all can't communicate. So anyway, Nadu was a poor project process implementation. There were steps missing. A lot of checks and balances were missing. And as a project manager that may have been in charge of Nadu, should have been fired. Should have been fired for that. I'm not saying we fire Wizard employees. I'm talking about a general joke sense. Like, there are things missing. Something needs to happen about that, right? They printed a final version of it. They let it go. It was originally meant for Commander anyway. Like, everyone hates it in Commander. It got dealt with there. It got dealt with in the modern format. It might even get dealt with in Legacy, to be fair, because it's like the new hot stuff on the block for those colors. But I mean, Nadu is a process problem. I think there is something to be said about power creep, but I think if the right processes were put in place, just like they were for the first iteration of it. For the first iteration, I believe it was 2 cards stuck on a 1. It was a Vidalcan Orrery on and 1 more effect, all on a commander, which is insane. So they stopped that and then went with the current iteration of Nadu, which if they went through the same checks and balances again, they could have stopped and then gone with the lesser version of that. The difference between the first iteration is that they made it a completely new card, but then didn't iterate on that card. They didn't test that card. They just shipped it. So I'm not sure if that's power creep. I think this is a bad example. It's more of the process falling apart due to time constraints, which we can do the classic thing of blaming late stage capitalism. We got to push up.
One of the reasons they wanted to introduce battles to the game is because they said Magic had become too fast with too many turn 1, 2, and 3 kills.
Okay, all of these are Eternal cards. Okay, literally Chrome Mox is not. This is Legacy, Vintage, and Commander. Barely so. Lotus Petal sees play in very select Legacy, Vintage decks. Very select Pauper cards. Lotus Petal, one of the most expensive cards in Pauper, if not the most expensive card in Pauper. I don't know off the top of my head, but come on. Bad examples.
Game was becoming not fun to play, so they attempted to slow it down.
With battles?
But where are those attempts now? And how is a 3-mana 5/4 Anthem you can swing in with going to help? Especially in a set with multiple ways to give creatures haste. And while I'll admit that most of those do require you to be max speed, but that's another thing. Can we stop with the additional side game mechanics? I don't want to mark my speed. I don't want to track the time.
No, okay, so we already opened the vault on this. I'm curious where Bobcat goes with this, but max speed was just poorly implemented because it's fixed. It's like, okay, the day-night bound cycle. This is just reiterated fixed versions of all mechanics we already have. We didn't need, we could just revisit those mechanics. Like like the ring tempts you is another one here. That one was so fixed. Like having the ring tempt you ultimately didn't matter for anything. And like they could have just made it more powerful, but had a back and forth. Like why is it that like we could have multiple ring bearers on the field? That doesn't make any sense. Ultimately, the rings destroyed people and ultimately weren't in use. Like they destroyed the kings of humans, the elves put them away, the dwarves got super greedy, like all that's like ultimately there was one ring. So in the current iteration of Lord of the Rings, it doesn't make sense for there to be multiple ring bearers, just one in terms of the story. One at a time can hold the ring. So they should have made it more powerful and had a back and forth where if we had, multiple decks playing the ring bearer, they could get some type of benefit from taking it from their opponent or something. But even that might be problematic. Regardless, like the implementation of something closer to the monarch might have been better. But once you start talking about like the dungeon mechanic and the initiative, that's when you start implementing like board game mechanics into a card game. And that's where things start to fall apart. A lot of people aren't a fan of the initiative. I mean, I see their points. I
don't want to be tempted by the ring. I don't want to explore the dungeon. Yeah. Forget power creep. Has complexity creep really gotten so bad that rules need multiple cards just to...
City's Blessing is also weird because it's like this one is just like a status effect of like having 10 or more permanents, and then you just have that forever. You just have that like as long as you have like 10 or more permanents. Rad counters, I mean, that's fine for like that was just like one set. That was just the Fallout set.
Explain them. I was okay with Monarch. That one was flavorful and fun. It was enough. Yeah. We should have stopped there because it's all been downhill since.
Every commander deck, every commander game should have complain about these
headache-inducing game states after the backlash mechanics like Eminence and Emblems got for being uninteractable.
Okay, the hate for emblems is dumb. The hate for emblems is actually dumb. Come on. The hate for emblems is actually so dumb. People are like, I can't interact with this. Come on. Let's be honest. The majority of planeswalkers, if they get to the emblem, you let that happen. You or your play group let that happen. You did not politic right. Y'all did not communicate properly. Someone lied in the rule 0 and their deck's too powerful or something. Y'all did not. You let that happen. Do not blame the emblems. Honestly, the majority of emblems are fine. I'm saying the majority because I almost feel like all emblems are fine. I just can't think of a bad example. Maybe there is one. Eminence, big problem. Eminence, I agree. Big problem. They've admitted that themselves. Emblems, not so much.
Game elements. Because honestly, I don't see the difference. You can't target a dungeon for removal any more than you can target Edgar Markov in the command zone.
Fair enough.
But I will admit we've started to slip into my personal opinions there. So let's talk about quality. Something I think that lately we can all agree collectively has been crap. And I'm not just talking about bendy, flimsy card stock that makes you question the authenticity of a card. All the constant printing errors that we're just expected to accept like we saw most recently in Innistrad Remastered. And now even the bundle dice? Really? If you check out this video on unboxing Aetherdrift by Geek Culture Plays, link in the description, at 238 you can see the spin down that's included in the more expensive Finish Line bundle. The host, Gerald Chan, says, the printing I feel might be a bit off for some, and then, if you're very picky about the printing, this might not be for you. But I'll be less polite than that. I'll go one step further.
Ooh, look at this. Look at this. There's like little chips in the white. It's not even a complete circle here. Look at the 3. Ooh. Ooh. I don't like that. That's not cute.
Because I think that looks like crap. Magic sure has been finding ways to raise the price lately, and for what exactly? Because it doesn't appear to be for quality products. Less cards per pack, less...
Remember, folks, just like I said in the beginning, it is not Wizards' fault. They will obviously, as a business, look to make more money. But part of all of this is Hasbro. It's not completely on Wizards. So I shouldn't say it's not Wizards' fault. I should say it's not completely their fault. In my opinion, the majority of the problem is Hasbro trying to push
packs per box, lower grade quality across the board, and prices as high as they've ever been. Nearly £300 for 12 packs of cardboard. Have we gone insane?
Yo, £300 is like what, $6,000 Canadian? The Canadian dollar is doing so bad right now.
Another thing I've heard people complain about is the art style. And you know what?
Okay.
I also think the first place foils are gaudy eyesores. The fractured foils are a visual mess. Ooh. Their non-foil counterparts aren't much better.
They look like Japanese
The Rude
TCG
Riders
cards.
are just plain ugly. The Revved Up cards are kind of lame. And I don't even know what to say about the graffiti giants. What am I looking at? And while it sounds like I'm having a go at the artwork itself, and yes, art is subjective and beauty is in the eye of the beholder, that's not the issue with these. Because, you know, Magic cards can look ugly, but these just don't look like Magic cards. This is a full release, not a secret lair.
But they're also trying to bring in new players. Like this is the fundamental thing that I think a lot of players miss. Like, I think in a lot of ways that there is definitely more pandering to newer players and bringing in new audiences. They have to bring new players in. You have to have more people as part of the gathering to have the magic. It's not just about sitting and going to FNM with the same circles over and over again. You have to have new people coming in. The one thing I will say, like here, okay, one thing I have with the visual design of this, okay, so Scryfall, perfect example. So let's go to an island. Actually, let's go to Plains. Okay, so we go to Plains on Scryfall, view prints. Okay. What about this plane? What about this as a plains? Like I see a desert and then there's like a car. Okay, let's go to a swamp. Okay. Let's go to view all prints. What about this is a swamp? I see a vast mega city structure. What about this is a swamp? This is my problem. This is my problem with the art. Some of the land designs are cool. This one specifically, also look at the color. Look at the color. It's yellow. This is a plain. Visually to me, I look down at my opponent. That's a plains at first glance. This is not a swamp. Okay, let's look at island. That's not like, look at an island. This is a swamp. What about this is an island? I see trees. There's rain coming down. This is a forest up in the clouds. What about you got a swashbuckling like ship for a car? That's the island part. I see yellow. Again, the visuals of these cards are where this is a miss. The gold bordering is one thing. I see how they want it to kind of mesh in with the gold of the outside. Otherwise, it'd be very weird. I just don't know about this. This is my big problem with this. It has to visually evoke something. And I think that because this isn't a standard set, it's not a secret layer drop. Secret layer drops get the pass from me. But when it's in a standard promo like this, like if these were like a secret layer promo, that's one thing. But this is like a promo in Aetherdrift. I don't know. I don't know about that one. Not gonna lie.
Most of these treatments are available in play boosters to be played with. An aspect of playability is recognizability and understandability. Gone are the days where you could play a thoughtful game more or less in silence because recognizing the cards without having to pick them up and ask your opponent what it does every bloody time because multiple copies of the same card all look sodding different isn't something you can do anymore.
Yeah. That's why I make sure like I've built a bunch of commanders, which I'm actually like holding in hand right now because I think it'll be relevant to this conversation. So I'm just having it be ready. But multiple copies of commanders that not multiple copies, but multiple commander decks that I'm building right now. When I print out the proxies, I go to like mtgproxy.com or something. The art, I try and like make an active effort to pick art that is like very easily recognizable because I already have a proxy going. It might be harder to see on camera or whatever when I'm playing on Spell Table, by the way. Shout out to everyone. I definitely want to be playing more Spell Table with my viewers out there. So if you're this far in the video, let me know if y'all want to jam some commander with me. I'll definitely be pushing that a bit more. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I definitely want to jam more commander with my viewers. But regardless, I try and make sure that a more recognizable art or like the base printing art is what I pick. Unless it's maybe the commander, I might kind of bling out, but yeah.
A lot of issues with Magic's current standard of art aesthetic, but at least these cards look like Magic cards, not like whatever the hell is going on here. So yeah, I get the complaints. Especially if you're new and don't understand that these are the same game pieces, they just look different for no reason.
Right.
Speaking of not feeling like Magic, let's talk about the set's story. And I won't bang on because it's actually feeds into my larger point.
So before he goes too far into it, one thing I'll say is like, okay, so the four commanders, let's start that I have. I think they perfectly illustrate this. Okay, so we got Magda. I'm building this as CDH. Cool. I got a base level meta CDH deck. Okay, Magda feels like a Magic card. Okay. Next you have Mrs. Bumbleflower. okay, this is my group hug deck. I'm replacing Aetherdrift. Like, okay, I mean, it's kind of fantasy, but there's like an anthropomorphic rabbit in there. Okay, all right, still kind of Magic, but still kind of weird. Then you have Mr. House CEO. It requires rolling dice. There's a man on a screen. There's a bunch of robots. It's from Fallout. Okay, sci-fi, fantasy, maybe, but it's from a different IP. That's a problem. Now, I feel like the worst example of this is probably one of my favorite commanders that I'm going to be building recently, is Phage. Now, this is a card that barely looks like a Magic card. You have some of the regular things of it, like you have the cost, you have the name of it, you have the ability, you have the power toughness. This one actually has some of it, but a lot of it looks very different. By the way, this is triple sleeve. There's inner regular and an outer sleeve, which is why you see the gold around it. Yeah, like I don't know. It just, because it was a secret lair, it gets a pass for me. But there are so many different arts of Magic cards these days. It feels very
but for those not in the know, here's an example. Aetherdrift, Episode 1, The Dashing and the Desperate.
Oh, God.
I'm going to read you this section because I think it speaks for itself. Let's zoom in. As Spitfire walks into the garage, Chandra and Alar's face is smiling across all of their screens, from different angles even. The various networks can't get enough of her, and how could they? And then, Spitfire frowns. A button on her braces interferes with the tech here. She mutes the screens. Hey, I was watching that, calls the mechanic. You've got to give your auntie a warning before you go disturbing her workplace. And you've got to warn me when you adjust my steering, says Spitfire. She leans against the hood of her ride. Okay, there are going to be those of you whose head just spun around hearing how distinctly not Magic that all sounded. But you know what? I could defend it.
It just kind of sounds like weird writing. I don't know.
Another complaint people had was with the flavor, which from what I saw peeked over this card, Transit Mage. Is this where we're at? People asked. Gone are the days of epic knights and warriors. Now a Magic the Gathering wizard is just some random bloke with a guitar and glued on.
Okay, all right. Bobcat, I'm not a fan of this one. I'm not a fan of this one. Not everything needs to be an epic knight or warrior. These are all callbacks to this argument, specifically using Transit Mage, feels a little disingenuous.
Is this the sort of creature we're expected to want to cast as all-powerful planeswalkers? Is this anybody's idea of a fantasy? Yes, I get that this is better representation of what people look like in real life, but is that what we want?
No, that's not what this is. Yes, this is fantasy. What? Do we look at like steampunk stuff and not say that's not fantasy? What? Come on, I don't know. It's like people like this don't exist. Like we literally, like, I don't know. People got mad when they saw the Spider-Verse and they're like, why is there a black rock star emo Spider-Man? Is that DEI? Like, come on, guys, come on. I don't.
This is meant to be escapism. We don't necessarily want to see ourselves in the cards. But you know what? Even though I agree with the criticism, I could defend that too. What about the complaints over the memes and references, which from what I saw peeked over this card, Spiked Shell Harrier? I mean, look at it. It's literally a blue shell from Mario Kart with arms. Yep. The flavor text reads, Target acquired, resolution, imminent impact. This isn't a reference, it just is a blue shell. I'm not saying it's illegal to steal something like this wholesale, stick arms on it and be done, but I am saying it's lazy.
Right.
Could we maybe not have created something that did the same effect or captured the same idea that isn't literally just a blue shell? No? But again, you know what? I could even defend this, as god-awful as it is. And the reason I could defend these choices is because of what I said near the start. There's one issue I could point to and say this is the reason Aetherdrift is bad. And while the thematically dissonant cards, cheap mimetic references, and just dumb story are all also bad, they are the symptom, not the cause.
Okay.
There's a reason Doretti has traded his almost Pope-like attire for slicked back hair and a leather jacket. There's a reason everyone's just decided to abandon their lives and build a Mad Max car to join the wacky races. Okay. There's a reason Chandra is doing an Akira slide. It's because she rides a motorbike, guys. And when you ride a motorbike, you do the Akira slide. That's it. That's as much thought as gone into this. Ready Player One was right and cultural references have peaked. There are 6 standard legal Magic the Gathering sets in 2025. That's not including bonus products like Secret Lairs, Commander decks, or even full sets like Innistrad Remastered. And that's not counting arena releases either. And if you're about to say that they're all separate teams, well, as you'll see in a bit, that might not be as true as you think. For perspective, though, we had Bloomburrow in August, Duskmourn in September, Alchemy Duskmourn in October, Foundations in November, Pioneer Masters in December, Innistrad Remastered in January, and Aetherdrift in February.
That sounds like a very specific problem for arena players, though, I will say.
Again, not listing all the secret layers coming out in those months too. In his Drive to Work podcast episode, fresh out of design Aetherdrift, head designer Mark Rosewater gave insight into the development of the set. Zoom in. I'm going to paraphrase him because he speaks very conversationally. I'll give timestamps where I can if you want to listen yourself. It's very interesting. I'd recommend it.
3 years
but
ago,
at 13 seconds, he says, "What I'm going to do is I'm going to record a podcast about the set I just turned in, talking completely, fully everything about it. And then, the set in question is Tennis. I don't even know the name of the set yet. It doesn't have a real name yet. This is because even though he's only just published it, this podcast was recorded 2 years ago just after he handed over to the design team what would become Aetherdrift." Then at 1 minute 32, "So here's your chance to hear me from 2 years ago talking all about a set, and talking about it in a way that maybe is illuminating to some things about how we made the set that maybe, in the finished product, I don't know, I wouldn't talk about, or I'm not sure." Okay, I certainly am interested in this unvarnished perspective. Sounds to me like he's a little unsure if he should be dishing this dirt, which if so, then illuminating will be right. Do go on. And he does. He speaks about the set's design for about half an hour until 28:28 when he says, "I'm giving you a behind the scenes thing here from 2 years ago. I know I handed over, I think he says, Adventurism set, and one of the things that often happens in R&D is we only have so many resources and other things that pop up. For example, at this time we were consolidating the draft booster and the set booster into a consolidated booster. But I thought the design teams were supposed to be separate. Why would that be a job for anyone working on Aetherdrift? Why would that have any effect on development?" Then at 29:40, "And that work was going on right now, which is a huge amount of work. Meanwhile, some of the sets around it, there was a lot going on, meaning that play design had, because of external issues, there was a lot of responsibility they were under. And so kinda what they wanted was an easy set, a set that wasn't hard to do." Cool. Okay. Cool to hear. The staff had been burnt out and just wanted to phone Aetherdrift in. They didn't want to put any effort into it, and yet collector boosters are nearly £300 a box. Good stuff. Then when speaking about Aetherdrift at 30:14, "This set had been a pushing boundary set by definition. We were supposed to be pushing boundaries."
Pushing boundaries? I found a spelling mistake. You gotta fix not a good video. You say boundaries and boundaries in the next same sentence.
And then at 30:50, "So anyway, the task we had given ourselves from the very beginning was a more daunting task. And the issue at hand was not that we didn't do what was asked of us. We did exactly what was asked of us.
Right.
It was just, it's coming to a time where other factors are really pinching play design. So making a set that's sort of like a little more than play design can handle, while in a normal time maybe they could just grab a few extra resources. At the point they're at right now, they don't have the extra resources. Cool, billion-dollar company doesn't have the resources apparently. When did all those people get fired again? Shame they weren't around to help. Oh well, I'm sure the customer will still pay for it anyway." I said last week one of the comparisons I hear when people complain about sets like Aetherdrift is Theros. The argument goes that you complain about design feeling lazy, phoned in and overly reliant on cheap references, but Theros is just Greek myth. Nothing more to it, and people still like that. Aetherdrift is just racing, so if you like one, you should like the other. These are the same, what's the difference? Time. Time is the difference. Theros was given not just 3 sets to build a world and...
Okay, we can't defend the 3-block set though. No. We cannot defend the 3-block set. It showed in the numbers that a lot of the sets, a lot of the cards, people did not mesh with. They stopped it because the sales went down because the power of those cards, they were, a lot of them, especially by the third set, were like throwaway sets. Story-wise, it helped, but in implementation, it was pretty bad. We cannot defend 3-block sets.
Tell a narrative, but those sets were given enough time for players to really appreciate them. Theros came out in September 2013. Born of the Gods not till February 2014.
Right.
And Journey into Nyx not till May of that same year. Imagine that. And those last 2 sets were smaller releases meant to accompany and complement the larger Theros, not replace it. And while I don't know for sure, I suspect all that extra space between releases would have given R&D enough time to not feel pinched by external factors.
But you have to remember, this is a different time through. You cannot do this right now. You cannot. In a world where people's attention spans are decreasing thanks to TikTok short form videos, which I'm making, I'm part of the problem of that. And then also like education systems are being ripped apart. We're losing, we got a plane crash every other day because, we're firing people in plane industries and everything for whatever the hell that stupid orange man is doing. Like, there's so many problems with the current world that like you can't 1-for-1 it back then. Back then, when you had a big Pro Tour result, everyone looked at the top 8 of that Pro Tour results or whatever like it was gospel. Nowadays, ain't nobody care because you got so many data points in Magic challenges and other in-house tournaments and so much data available that we know that that is part of it. We can take a good look at the Pro Tour and see like, okay, what good decks are and everything from those pros, but we also know that we have to sample that in to the other data that we have. We've access to a lot of information. And so if you were to take that away from us, because that's what this is, right? If you didn't jive with that set, imagine if Aetherdrift was 3 sets. If you didn't jive with the giant race, what was it to be? I will say that there is room to maybe make it better because if you had Aetherdrift be 3 sets across 3 races across 3 planes, the first set's Armageddon, for second set, whatever, third set, whatever, it'd be kind of cool. You go through 3 planes a set and have that central theme of the race. I can see that being pretty cool for story implementation. But if you didn't like Aetherdrift as a set, now you were stuck in that standard where a lot of people didn't jive with the vibe. They weren't a fan of the race and now you're stuck in it forever. So there's plus minus to it. I think in my argument about improving Magic story, it does help if you were to kind of push over multiple sets. The problem is when it comes to player implementation and their interest, it would just not work right now in just our media space right now, how our attention is divided, how things are so expensive right now. It'd be really hard to justify this. You know, that's why every time a Universe Beyond set comes out, everyone's like, my wallet will not survive this. But every time a in-universe Magic set comes out, people are like, okay, to the next one, I guess. I'll go back to playing Commander. I'll go back to like, you know, yelling at the moon about how Mox Opal is like almost $200 Canadian per copy, but
characters or otherwise.
Reprints are another
That's
problem.
why for Aetherdrift, I could defend the writing, I could defend the design choices, and I could defend the references, because just like a Greek myth set worked, a racing set could work,
right,
but it doesn't because it's not given enough time, attention, or care. The reason there's a blue...
Okay, if that's the argument, I can agree with Bobcat. But I'm not sure if it's exactly like bringing back 3 block sets. I agree with Bobcat. He is right that it is about time and effort and detail being put into fleshing a story out. That was one of the things that is the central thing I wanted to bring up initially. If I didn't verbalize it well, my fault. Maybe it feels like I'm piggybacking off of him, but that is
because they want to demonstrate that the set's like Mario Kart, so they just put in something from Mario Kart. They want to show it's like Wacky Races, so they just put in something that could have been in Wacky Races.
Right.
The reason Chandra is doing an Akira slide is because it's a cut corner. The design team have to get across motorbike right now, and they don't have time to think about it. So what's the first thing that comes to mind? I don't know, Akira. Fine, whatever, put it in. The first thought will have to count. The first draft will have to do because the rest of play design...
Okay, like you can have both though. This doesn't mean that it's empty, right? References are cool because it brings people into the game. This is where you're kind of losing me. I think what your central thesis is good. I don't know if the arguments are completely up there. And to be fair, that could be subjective as well. I agree with like a lot of the central thesis of the points that you're trying to make. I agree with. Some of the arguments fall through for me, but overall the messaging I agree with.
Worrying about the consolidation of different boosters apparently. No one's here to think about it and it needs to get done now, so just do it. Chandra does an Akira slide. I said I'm not buying any of this, so surely all these complaints and nitpicks I pointed out about the set don't matter, because they won't affect me. Surely this set at most should inspire apathy. In not just me, but in everyone. And yet it doesn't. I love this game, like so many others, and whether conscious or not, the reason Aetherdrift inspires such hatred is because it's yet another thoughtless, rushed, ugly, uninspired example of Hasbro squeezing to death something that we hold dear in the name of quarterly profits.
Bobcat just cooked. My man just cooked. Okay. Let's just give some time to clap at that one. Okay. We hit the central thesis, y'all. Bobcat's right. Go and like this video. Oh my god, that deserves a comment. Although a few of the arguments I couldn't get behind. Let me just comment. Generally, the thesis and the bigger statements couldn't be more true. You cooked with this one. You cook with this one. That's it. Gotta throw it up there. Yeah, That's oh, what did that player say is pinned by Bobcat? The one time I was the one player who showed up with an official Infinity draft. It's really fun set to draft on its own, but it has its problem. But yeah, I felt that by himself.
The prices keep going up while the quality of the product keeps going down. And every single one of the things I have talked about today is an example of it. People aren't stupid, they're going to notice, even if only the results of the issue rather than the cause of it. And they'll be right to complain. I hate Aetherdrift, but I don't blame it. I don't blame the designers, authors, and artists that worked on it. I don't even blame Mark Rosewater. Okay. I blame Hasbro, because Aetherdrift is a monument to the crunch they're subjecting their staff to, their attitude of profits before players, and their willingness to sell you slop at a premium. I said at the start that I knew what the issue was and that I even knew how to fix it. Ironically, for the racing set, the solution is to slow down. Give your products and worlds more care and attention. Give the people that create those things the time and resources they need to do it justice. Give the players a break, let them enjoy something before moving them on to the next thing. Are we at Final Fantasy spoilers already? I hear that's coming. Final Fantasy isn't even the next set, that's Tarkir. Are we being moved on from Tarkir before we've even had a chance to think about it?
Fair
Jesus
enough.
Wept, let us breathe.
Yep.
But I know they won't slow down, they don't care about the product. Looking at their actions, they obviously just want to put out as much as they can, as quickly as they can. Aetherdrift was one full release. 5 more sets to go this year. Thank Christ they pushed Lorwyn back to 2026. Let's see how many people bother sticking around to play it. Come check out my Patreon if you've enjoyed this content and want to support someone who's making it so they can make more. I suspect there's 5 more videos like this one on the way at some point. And YouTube sucks, I could really use the help. Plus I've got some fun rewards on there, it's worth checking out.
YouTube does suck.
Come back next week for a Commander deck tech. I don't want to blow my own horn here, but I've created the single greatest Commander deck of all time.
Okay.
And it isn't even textless.
Excited to check that out.
Thank you very much for watching this video.
Okay, all in all, Bobcat, very few arguments, maybe like 5 or 10% of your arguments I wasn't a fan of, but overall, love this video. 10 out of 10, you brought it home. You cooked at the end. Bobcat, I'm a fan. I like it. Story's the problem. I'm not sure if, the lazy design stuff, I can see it and I don't see it at the same time. So I'll just concede. We'll just agree to disagree. I do agree with some of your points on that, but overall, screw Hasbro, 100%. We should not be completely just blaming Wizards here. I agree, and a lot of poor designers, and so when I say poor designers, I mean like unfortunate people got stuck on the bad end of it, got let go. A lot of people's lives are being affected by this, and it's just corporate greed and crunch. Couldn't agree more. Really unfortunate that we had a set like this kind of tank so much of the love that people have for Magic, but yeah, really unfortunate. But I love this video. This is great. I think overall, the story is a big thing that a lot of people need to really connect with this set. I think like slowing it down, flushing it out even further is good. I think there are ways to better do so in the cards themselves, and I don't know. I think overall we can just do better with getting people to care about the magic of Magic the Gathering and the characters themselves, instead of having Jace come back over and over and over again and people coming back from the dead and all that stuff. Like, we can just do a lot better. Also, print some better mill cards. We need better mill cards. I'm just going to shoot that in there. We need better mill cards. I need Powercraft. I need Powercraft Hedron Crab. I need to be Hedronic Crab. 1 mana 0/5. Whenever a land enters, target player mills 5. That's it. That's it. And then just give me like this ability triggers only once each turn. Just hit me with that. That's how you power creep it. This ability triggers only once each turn. Then I'll fetch on opponent's turn, and then I'll get them to trigger it or whatever. Anyway, regardless, that's my little rant. Love this video. Go watch it. Let it run in the background since you already watched it. Give it its time on the algorithm. Leave a like. Leave a comment on Bobcat's video as well. And yeah, I mean, hey, hit up his Patreon if you're looking to support it. But all right, good video.